Good morning or early afternoon. Sorry for the extremely late start. Got stuck in a meeting slash helping a customer, so that's late today. Anyway, this is VirtualPBX-admin training. If you're a vConsole customer, we no longer provide the live trainings. However, you can find the recorded trainings on our website, www.virtualpbx.com. Mouse over support and then select the console support, and you'll find the videos there. All right, on your screen, you should be seeing our Dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. And to log in, you need your email address, your password, and then your company name or your account name. So, get myself logged in. Obviously, you can click Remember Me, so that way you don't have to keep typing things in, as well as we have forgot your info link in case you do forget your password. All right. And once you get loaded, you default on your dashboard page. Now, if you just signed up, you actually will start under the account information page. So you can adjust like your email address or your time zone, etc. on your user, and then you have the account settings here. Now, this is a test account, so it doesn't have everything. On an actual account over here on the left, you also have some of your billing stuff, so you can like update your credit card, for example. But when you're done, or done with the Dash wizard, start off with, you can just hit close here, the top right, and then you'll be at the dashboard. All right. Now, on the dashboard, we've got a couple different things, a lot of things going on actually. So over here on the left, this is your navigation through the major system components. Then we've got basically your quick snapshot of your system, which we'll go over in detail in just a little bit. We have some key settings along the top here. Then up top here, if you click on your name, again, you can get to your account and user settings for like your time zone, language, etc. Got the little help icon here. So you can chat with support. You can go to the support pages. Oops. All right, so this will get you to chat with support. This will get you to the support pages. This goes to the online store, so you can buy a physical Voip phone. And then here, I have the web phone link because on my particular user, I've added the web phone. Over here, this is the menu icon or hamburger icon. So we're on the dashboard here. But you can get to some of these other features like ACD queues, the fax manager, Blacklist, the monitor, etc. Now, these are all admin accessible. For your standard users, they can get to queues, assuming they're assigned to a queue. And then they can also get to the user portal. And then up here, we have the sign out icon. All right, so here we got total users, all the people on the account. These are people who are making and receiving calls. Depending on your plan, adding users may increase your bill, so just be aware of that. Down below that, we've got your total devices. So these are all the devices on the account now. Devices are what you and your staff use to answer calls or make calls out. All right, now on registered devices here, the breakdown, soft phone is a software application, usually on a computer, but it can run like on a tablet or a smartphone. Then we have the cell phone, which is pretty self-explanatory. Web phone is a type of soft phone. It's specifically designed to run on both Chrome or Firefox. It does count as a soft phone in terms of a technical sense. But basically allows you to use those browsers to make and receive calls. Now, this is for the desktop versions of those browsers. The mobile versions, it might work, it might not. Like I know on my Android phone, on Chrome, I can make use of the web phone. However, like iPhones, I know I've had problems with either browser and the web phone. That's something that's still being worked on. A SIP phone is a VoIP phone, right? So this is a physical phone that sits on your desk, like a Yealink, Cisco, Polycom, etc. Just be aware that SIP is a particular subtype of VoIP phones, right? There's several different types, and SIP is what we use on Dash. Below that, you also have landline and a couple others. Unregistered devices, this means the system cannot detect that these devices are connected, i.e. for your VoIP devices, it means we can't make and receive calls to those devices, thus they're unregistered. All right, then. Total numbers, these are phone numbers. So these are phone numbers that your customers call in to speak to your staff, right? So this could be a main number. This could be a number that's set up directly to a user, set up to, say, go directly to a ring group, to an ACD queue if you're making use of queues, your fax box, conference, etc. But basically, it's an inbound phone number. And then we've got it broken down. An assigned number versus spare number. Assigned number means it's in use. You've put it, it's going to someone, right? Whether it's a main number or to a person, etc. Spare number means it's a number on your account, but you're not using it. It doesn't ring to anybody. Now, every plan has a number of phone numbers included as part of your plan price, anywhere from like 1 to 15, I think is the current range. Once you go over your plan allotment, the extra phone numbers are $4.99 per month. Even if that number is a spare number, you would still be charged. So it's something to be aware of. And then the other breakdown here is USDID versus US toll-free. So toll-free, pretty easy. 800 number, 888-877, all the way down to 833 currently. USDID, that's just a local phone number, right? So whether it's in San Jose, California, where VirtualPBX is based, or New York, Dallas, etc. Conference bridges, basically this is the number of users you've said can host a conference. Over here, we've got your main numbers. So the main numbers, they all behave the same way, right? So no matter which of those main numbers you call, you're going to have the same experience. Right? Call in, you'll hear the same main greeting, for example, and they'll have the same routing. Down below that, you have got your conference numbers. So these numbers go specifically into your conference bridge, and then they need to enter in a conference room number to get to where they're going. Your fax box number, you're only allowed one. This is so you can receive faxes. Pretty easy. Once you've added a fax box number, then you can edit your fax box, and you can then have staff who can then fax out. All right, company directory is a download, basically all your users, so people can see everyone's extension number if they need them. Store discount code, just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount on anything you buy in the web store. Not a bad deal. And then lastly, we have the account realm. The account realm used in a couple different things. Used to, say, program a third-party device, whether that be a VoIP phone or a third-party soft phone application, like X-Lite from Counterpath, a soft phone that's free on the internet. The other thing it's used for is for faxing, actually. You can set up your fax box so any user can send out a fax via email, right? So you create an email. In the to field, you put +1, area code and phone number of the fax number you're sending the fax to. You put the @ symbol, and then you put your account route. And then you simply attach a PDF or TIFF file and send it out. All right, let's go into, up here we've got your caller ID. So this is your company caller ID. You typically do want to have this set, especially for your VoIP phone users, or if you're doing any kind of like forwarding to cell phones or whatnot, and you want to make sure your company phone number shows up. So you select one of your main numbers, and then you've got the company caller ID name. This is text, up to 15 characters. Those 15 characters include spaces or special characters, and that's an industry standard. Once you click Save Changes, this information would get sent to the other carriers who support CNAME, and they will update their servers. Now, that process can take up to 3 business days, so it's not immediate. Some things to keep in mind. One, not every carrier that a call routes through supports CNAME, and we can't make them. I'm sure if we could, we would, but some of them have chosen not to support CNAME. So if your call happens to route through one of those carriers, your CNAME information will not go through no matter what. All right, now the big name carriers, AT&T, et cetera, right? As far as I know, they all support CNAME. It's usually the smaller regional carriers that may not. If you're calling to someone who has your phone number already programmed into their phone, right, whatever they have programmed to your phone takes precedence over what we send. And just be aware, not all cell phone carriers provide CNAME, or if they do, it's sometimes a paid service. So be aware of that. And then the last caveat, if any of the carriers are having some kind of maintenance issue or extremely heavy call traffic volume, CNAME information may not go through because they're mostly concerned about connecting calls first and foremost, and then the caller ID. All right, down below here, we've got the company E911 information. This is basically your headquarters address, and you just want to fill that out. And that's especially important for your Voip phone users because by default, if they pick up a Voip phone, call 911, this is the address that is sent by default to emergency services. All right, hold music. So hold music on dash is after a call is already connected to one of your users, right? So someone calls in, ring, ring, ring. Your receptionist Bob picks up the phone, starts talking to the customer. Says, oh, let me put you on hold. Presses hold on his Voip phone. That's when this hold music would come into play. So we've got a default file, but you can upload your own. Find the file on your computer, and then you would click on this little up arrow button here. Now, Dash accepts .mp3 and .wav files. You want to keep it under 1 megabyte in size, and we do recommend that you record in mono, not in stereo. For reference, a 1 megabyte MP3 is roughly 5 minutes, and if you record in mono, you get more data. So, but then once you upload, click on Save Changes. And that becomes the default hold music for all of your users. All right, hours is actually a subset of main number. So we're just going to go ahead and click on main number. All right, so first we'll click on the main company numbers. So here you see all your numbers. You've got a little gear icon here. So you can adjust the caller ID of the specific phone numbers. You can also adjust the E911. And prepend is a Voip feature. So let me just click on that. All right, so now I can put text in front of the caller ID that gets transmitted to my Voip phone users. Basically, so they know, oh, this call came in on this phone number. It's about this topic, right? Especially if you're having a special promotions. Now, if you want to add a number, you can either add from your spare number list. So I got these 2 numbers sitting here. Or I can just buy a new number. Let's go local. And let's see what's in 512. You can add multiple numbers at once if you'd like to. All right, so now I've got the one down here. And then you click on Buy Numbers. And then go through the activation. Basically, verifying that the number is still available. And then moving it to your account. And then activating it. Normally it doesn't take quite this long. Or maybe I'm just being impatient today. I think I'll off with I'm being impatient today. It's been that sort of day for me. There we go. So now the new numbers here. Again, I can adjust the caller ID E911 and prepend for that number if I want, but all these numbers are going to behave the same way. Speaking of that behavior, let's go to the office hours strategy. So by default, everyone starts out with 24-hour open office. You can switch to custom office hours. Basically, if you put a check mark for each day of the week that you're open, and then select your open hours in 24-hour time. You also have here the option to be closed during lunch. Do that, then it gives you, again, you put in your boxes there. Office holidays, put a check mark if you're closed for holidays. And then over here to the right, you add holidays. You have either single day, date range, or advanced. So single day, pretty self-explanatory, and it's just like right here, we have under President's Day, you put in, give it a name, select the month and the date. Right. Date range, like we have up here for Christmas, December 23rd to December 26th. Basically what you're doing is you're telling the system, hey, when this date is reached, put us in holiday mode automatically. That way you don't have to do it later on your own. And then this retreat here, that's an example advanced. I'm saying, hey, the first Friday in July, just put us in holiday mode because we're on retreat. Now the main caveat here is that there's no year indicator. So for like a single day, that changes. So like President's Day, you have to come back in at some point and change the actual date that it's going to be in effect. Obviously, you don't want to do that necessarily right after, because that may put you in close an additional day, unintentionally. The other big caveat, though, is for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Because there's no year indicator, the system will put you in closed or after hours mode all the time. So for that particular range, we say, hey, just do a single day for December 31st, single day for January 1st. If you're beyond that or before that, you can do date ranges up to that point or after that. Oops. All right. Now incoming call handling. So now these are options that you have for those main numbers, which is how the system is going to handle it. So here you have your open hours. We also have your holidays, right? Because I left this in 24 hours. But if I did custom office hours, I would have an after hours tab. You'd also have a lunch hours tab if you were closed for lunch. But you have these three basic options. So first one, a call comes in, goes to the virtual receptionist. Virtual receptionist is a link, which will open up. Boom. So on our left, we've got your main menu, which is basically what your customers press on their phone to navigate through your phone system, right? 1 for sale, 2 for support, that sort of thing. On the right, you've got your greeting option. So here, under main menu, you can add routes. Normally, this pull down would work. It's just not on this particular software. And then you can select where you want it to go. Right, so you can go to groups. You can go to particular media files. You can go to specific devices. You can go to specific people, etc. All the different topics. Basically, you have options 0 through 9, plus the default route. Your greetings, text to speech. You type it in. You click update. You click save. And then save changes. If you want to remove one of the routes, by the way, you would click on the X to the right of it. Upload your own file, then .wav.mp3, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. Upload your file, and it's good to go. Choose from existing recordings. Basically, anything you've already recorded or uploaded is you can select. You can record it over the phone. Now, this is set up by time of day, right? So say you're in custom office hours, your open hours PIN number is different than your after hours PIN number. And you can only record for the time of day you're in, right? So if you want to change your after hours greeting, you have to make sure your system is in after-hours mode. Then you can call in and record it over the phone. Additionally, by default, this is set up to work with a VoIP phone on the account. If you want to record using an outside line, i.e. you want to use your cell phone, you just need to email support@virtualpbx.com. It needs to come from at least an admin on the account, if not a billing contact, saying, I'd like to have the ability to record my greeting from an outside line. We'll enable that for you, but ask you to let us know when you're done, so we'll turn that off, because this is a security feature, so we don't want random people calling in and just trying to hit PIN numbers and trying to change your recording on you. The other thing to keep in mind about recording over the phone. So if you've just signed up and you record over the phone, it's not a big deal. It'll tell you that there's no menu recorded. You enter your PIN number, it walks you through recording. But if you've already been established for a while, let's say you're just taking, you've been working for the company for 6 months, and then suddenly your boss says, hey, you're in charge of the phone system. Yeah, thanks. But you need to change the greeting. So you already have a greeting in place and you want to record it over the phone, that's fine. You would call in as your current greeting plays, we'll call that greeting A. You enter in your PIN number, and then the system will walk you through recording. Now, when you click save, or press save, right, greeting A, the file name, stays the same, but the content of that file just became what you recorded. Right? So you recorded a new greeting, greeting A has new content in it. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right, then we've got professional recording services. When you click order, this will take you to another website. The company is called Snap Recordings. They have like 100 voices to choose from, men and women. They have different versions of English. Pretty sure they have different versions of French and Spanish as well. So you can do multilingual readings. They have their own pricing. They have packages, so you can do hold treatment, music and a script kind of thing. They usually deliver, as far as I know, they only deliver via email. They have like rush processing as well, so you can get it within a couple days. But basically, you get the file, then you just upload. All right, then we got the setting here. Number of retries on missed dial. So what that is saying is your inbound caller calls in, and the first time they're like, and they press number 6 for whatever reason, right? That's not a valid entry on this particular menu. So the greeting plays the second time. They hit 6 again for whatever reason, then the system will end the call. Now, if you had a default route set, on that second mistry, it would send it to the default route. We don't recommend the default route currently just because robodialers are such a prevalent problem. Basically, robodial would come in, go through the greeting a couple times, and then get to you, say, a voicemail box and using up minutes on your plan, which is not a good thing. All right, so any changes you make here, you need to click Save, but then you also need to click Save Changes here on the incoming call handling. If you don't do that, that can cause things not to work properly. All right, so your next option here, call comes in, we're often it's Bob, and if Bob doesn't pick up, it goes to the virtual receptionist. It's the same virtual receptionist because we're still under open hours. Now, I can change this to a ring group, for example. I could set it to a specific device, a media file, etc. Basically, the option this option is to give a staff member or staff members a chance to answer the call first. If they're not able to, then send the inbound caller to the virtual receptionist to hit a menu option or extension number. Right? Just like basically you have a group of operators. And you want them to answer the call if at all possible. Right? Third option, call comes in. Again, we're offering it to Bob. If he's not able to pick up, it goes to Bob's voicemail. Right? So in this instance, there's going to be no main greeting unless you select a media file. Same with this second option here. Actually, the second option, since I get to the virtual receptionist, they'll get a greeting. My apologies. But this one they won't. Now, under holidays, right, you still have the same basic options. But one thing to keep in mind is your virtual receptionist is different. Right? So you can customize each of these for your holidays or for your after hours or your lunch hours, so it can go to completely different people. You can have you can have a different greeting, obviously. That's why. All right, main conference number. You can add a conference number either by buying or adding from spare. You can enter in your own text-to-speech greeting for getting into the conference. Basically, you want to tell them, please enter the conference room number you're trying to reach. Fax box number, again, there wasn't one here. You can buy a number or add from spare. Unfortunately, this fax box is broken because it's a test account, but on your account, when you click Edit Fax Box, a box will show up with two fields that you can edit. The first field is for who's getting the voicemail, or the faxes. The email is for the fax. You put in the email address, that person, or that email address rather, is going to get every fax that comes in. It's going to be as a PDF file. The second field is, say, for example, you own your own domain, right? So abccleaners.com. Everyone who works for you has an email address that ends with the @ abccleaners.com. You can put that domain in that second field, and then everybody who has that email address can then send a fax out, right? Because they have an email. They just need the correct format. They don't have to be a user on the account to send a fax. All right, numbers. So numbers show all your numbers on your account and where they're ringing to. These top 4 ones are just incomplete porting attempts. And then spare numbers, you've got your numbers you're not using. Any number you have in spare numbers, actually here, so say you want to remove a number, you're like, oh, we're not using it, or you're getting too many junk calls, or it's like one digit off some other big company, and you're like, oh, I'm tired of getting calls from these people. So first you would unassign that number. Say, okay, we're not using this no more. However, it's still on your account. So then you need to go to numbers, click on spare. Now, if you put a check mark in front of it, you've got the option to delete the number, and now you removed it from your account. You can still buy numbers here, so like you can buy them ahead of time, and then you're like, I'm not sure where I'm going to use them yet, but when I'm ready, I'll be sending them out. Port, this starts the port process, meaning you're moving a number from another carrier to VirtualPBX. So like say from AT&T to VirtualPBX, for example. Basically, you would follow the steps. The main thing is we need a filled out letter of agency, or LOA. The LOA is going to ask you for your company information, like the company name and the address. That information should match what your current carrier has on file for you, right? So say what AT&T has on file for you. So if your company name with AT&T is XYZ Cleaners, then that's what should be the company name on the LOA should be. Same with the address. It also asks for a signature. It does need to be a signature. It can be a digital signature, but it's basically, it just can't be just typed. The typed ones will get rejected almost every time that I've seen. Along with the LOA, we typically need a copy of your bill. That bill should be roughly within 30 days. We then submit those to the other carrier. Hopefully everything's correct, and they said, here, yes, and then they give us the release date. Then we let you know, and then the port gets completed. Now, if there's a problem with the port, like they say the wrong person signed it, or the address is wrong, they give us a general error, like address mismatch or unauthorized signature. We'll let you know that via email, saying, hey, this is what happened. But they're not going to tell us, oh, like if it's in the case of an unauthorized signature, they're not going to tell us who it's supposed to sign for. Right? That's something you would actually have to contact them to determine. If they have old information, then you can update them, and then we can resubmit, for example. All right. Users basically shows all the users on the account. Adding a user, pretty easy. You put in their first and last name. Their email address used for login, this needs to be unique per user, right? So every user has their own email address for login purposes. You create the password, and then you can also create their main extension number. Now, on this system, I started off on extension 1000, so the system is telling me the next available number in that range is 1027, but I can change it to be, 4210 if I wanted to. Okay, by default, every user when they're created, they have voicemail box created for them. You can uncheck that if you want to. I don't recommend it. The other thing I recommend doing right away is putting a check mark on this fourth one, which is send credentials to the user. I have suggested that we make that just the default. Hopefully that someday that will go through. Now, these middle two, include in the company directory, right? If you put check mark, they are. If you don't, they won't be. And then send emails to alternate address. This is to say, hey, I want like my voicemails on this user to go to a secondary address on top of the email address they used to log in with. All right, and then you either click create user or create user and add another. All right, so people, the gray people, these are your standard users. People with the little blue suit icon, those are your admins. Right, so the admins can do everything we're talking about here. If you click on a name, you can change their name. You can change their login credentials, right? So their email address, or you can change their password. You can also do send a password reset email here. So like if one of your users keeps forgetting their login, instead of creating a new password for them every time, just here, do it. You can do it yourself now. You can then obviously decide to put the alternate email address. You can also change if they're in the company directory or not. The user, this is actually a pull down, unfortunately not showing, but this allows you to change a user to become an admin or vice versa. This is your time zone. So by default, most just use the account default, but you can select the appropriate time zone. Language, English, French, German, Russian are the available options. Ringing timeout, so this is set to 45 seconds. The actual default is 20 seconds. So 20 seconds is plenty of time if you're sending calls to a Voip phone or a landline. However, if you're sending callers often to cell phone users, then you'd want to up it to 45 seconds, if not a minute. And it's simply because it takes longer to route a call to a cell phone than it does to, say, a landline, right? Because every time you send a call to a cell phone, your cell carrier has to find you first, then it rings. Landlines, they know where you are, so they just send the call. Got your main extension number and your standard settings. Extensions can have multiple, or users can have multiple extension numbers. Excuse me. All right, you just add another extension number if you want to. Users can also have their own phone numbers. Again, you can buy numbers here or add from spare so they can have multiple phone numbers. My typical idea for that is your salespeople would probably want their own phone number so they can have it on their business cards. And that way, the potential sales prospect calls them directly instead of one of the other salespeople. All right, so then we got the options for devices. You click here, right? So you can have a bunch of devices on your account. If I do that, I can remove one. All right, you can add for spare devices, meaning you've already added them on the account, or you can add new ones. All right, first one is SIP phone. Again, this is a physical Voip phone that sits on your desk. And these are the manufacturers that we support auto provisioning on. And basically, you select the one you want, you find your device, you put in the device name and the MAC address, and then you click on Create Device. And then after you click on Create Device, you would click on Save Changes. Now, in terms of the dashboard, you're done. However, on the phone itself, you need to log into the phone's web user interface and enter in a URL, basically telling it where to go. And basically what it does, phone goes to the URL directed, communicates with the server, gets the config file. The phone's going to reboot at least once, sometimes twice. But after that, it should then be connected and show up as green on your user, and you can make and receive calls. Now, the specifics of that you can find on our webpage, right? VirtualPBX.com, mouse over support, go to dash support. Adding VoIP phones is this part. And then auto provision phones, that will give you the URL and where to add it on the specific device types. Cell phone and landline are basically the same. You put in a name, and then you put the phone number, +1, area code, and phone number. And then you would click on Create Device, and then Save Changes. Now, a couple words on that. So this is how a cell phone looks after you've added it to your account. So when Dash tries to send a caller to your cell phone, right, your cell phone will ring. You pick up. You're going to hear a message say, "This is a forwarded call. Please press 1." So you need to press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, "Yes, I'm here, and yes, I want to take this call." And so it gets the tone. It connects the call to you. You start talking. Now, that doesn't work for everyone because maybe, for instance, you added it as a cell phone, but really you're sending the callers to an automated answering service for your after-hours use, for example. In that case, that automated answering service cannot press 1 to accept the call. So what you would want to do is that. Put a check mark and allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is, in essence, when we hear the pickup tone, Dash connects the call. Says, "Okay, you're there, boom." So in the case of sending it to an automated answering service, that's great. Your answering service can then pick up and handle the call. If this is really your cell phone, and your cell phone voicemail picks up, we still treat that as a connected call, so that inbound caller ends up on your cell phone's voicemail. Some people love that. Some people don't want that whatsoever. Purely up to you. Now, this other option here, keep original caller ID. Again, when that call is offered to you on your cell phone, you're going to see the inbound caller's phone number. Now, if you uncheck this, there we go. Instead of that inbound caller's phone number, you would see the VirtualPBX phone number they call, right? So one of your main numbers, right? So that's a way to let you know by looking at it. You're like, "Oh, this is a work call. Boom, I'll take it," versus some random telemarketer calling you. But if you make any of these changes, then you would click on Save Changes. Right, soft phone, again, software application. Runs typically on a computer or a tablet, smartphone. This little warning here so that you know that, hey, because you could be moving around a little bit, your E911 may not have valid information. All right, so right here, we're defaulted to what's called a third-party application, meaning you're using an application from someone other than VirtualPBX. Say, for instance, Xlite, like I mentioned earlier. So if that's what you're going to use, that's fine. Create a device name. You click Create Device. You click Save Changes. You would use the SIP username and the SIP password and your account realm to program that application. You could also use a third-party soft phone credentials to program a VoIP phone that didn't show up under that SIP phone list. Right? Like, say you have a Cisco, but it didn't show up on that list of available models. You're like, well, I still want to try it. You could then use that information to program that phone. Now, if you want to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, we do offer that. You can click where it says Use Third-Party Application. It flips it. So now you're using a VirtualPBX application. You give it a device name. You click on Create Device, and you click Save Changes. Once you click Save Changes, the system will send you an email with your login credentials for use with the VirtualPBX cell phone app. Now, if you're using it on mobile, you can then just go to the relevant app store, download it, enter those credentials, you're good to go. If you want to use the desktop versions of the cell phone, so Mac OS, Windows, does require a license fee. You're going to want to purchase that through the web store and get that taken care of. But then they'll get the download links. You can use those credentials to find it. All right, I'm going to skip down to web phone. Again, you get the same E911 warning. So basically, you put in your device name, create device, click Save Changes. Now, the web phone uses the same login information as your dash login. Right? It's just a different URL. You go to webphone.virtualpbx.net. It's going to ask you for your email address, your password, and your account name. You log in, and now on Chrome or Firefox, you can make and receive calls. All right, features, user features. So caller ID number, this only applies to users that have their own phone number. And basically, when you enable it, you're saying, hey, when they make an outbound call, show their specific phone number versus the main company number. Call forwarding. All right, so you have off, on, or failover remote. So off means you're not call forwarding. On, you're going to use call forwarding. Basically, you're saying, I'm not going to be at my normal phone. Send callers to my user to this other device. So, like my cell phone. Now, that cell phone should not be a device on my user, right? Because it's not something I typically use for work. It's a temporary thing. Whereas, if you have users who are basically using cell phones, then you probably don't need call forwarding anyway. Now, there's also failover remote. This is for your Voip phone users. Basically, the system will know when your Voip phone is not registering with us, meaning we can't send calls to it. When it detects that and a call comes into the user, it'll automatically call forward to the device or the phone number you set up, like your cell phone. That way, your cell phone starts ringing with work calls, and you're like, I don't have call forwarding on, at least not by default. You always answer the call, but then you can double check, like, did the dog run by and pull out the cable from my Voip phone? Did the guy outside, working, digging up the yard or something happen to hit the cable box or whatever? Gives you an idea of what's going on, but basically make sure you can keep working even if your Voip phone happens to lose connectivity. Hot desking is another Voip phone feature. This is in an instance where your staff is in a shared office environment where they may be rotating desks from day to day, right? So on Tuesday, I sat at desk number 7. I have hot desking, so I pick up the Voip phone that's there. I hit *11. That enables hot desking on that phone. It asks me for my hot desk PIN or hot desk ID. I enter that, and it says, hey, calls will be sent to this phone. At the end of my day, I pick up the handset. I hit *12. That turns off hot desking. Tomorrow, when I walk in, someone's already at desk 7. So I'm sitting at desk 42 today. Instead, pick up the handset, hit *11. Again, calls will be sent to the desk that I'm sitting at. Obviously, if your staff is always at the same desk all the time, you don't need to have hot desking. Voicemail, again, by default, users already have that. Fax Box, you can set up users to have their own individual fax boxes if you so wish. You would either select spare number, buy a number, or use an extension, or assign a new extension. Now, I usually recommend using a phone number because when most people fax from a fax machine, they just enter the number, send fax, and walk away, get a cup of coffee. Or they're using an email fax server, so they just type in the email address or the phone number and move on. If you use an extension number, what has to happen is that the person faxing in is going to call your main number. They hear the greeting, and that's when they enter in the extension number and then hit send fax. And I don't know how well that will work with an email to fax service. So basically, you would find an extension not in use and assign it, and you would be good to go. Conference bridge. Here, let's show you what it's like outside of it already being set up. Right, so I enable it. It shows my phone numbers. This is my personal conference room number, i.e. it's my extension number. And then, oops, let's try that again. You enter conference bridge pin, and you click save. So now I can host a conference, right? Or this particular user can host a conference. People still have to call into the main conference numbers, including this user. But then they can also manage conferences from their user portal. There's a conference tab there. Right. Follow me. This is for users with multiple devices. So we will enable that. And if I hit enable and save changes, I really haven't done anything. And in fact, my devices won't ring. So what you do is you uncheck the boxes or the phones that you want to have work. And right now, they're going to ring for a second. Now, my total ring time up here is 120 seconds. Now, I can do something like click on distribute. And so now I'm bringing each phone in order. I can click and drag phones around to change the order and redistribute, i.e. cell phone is my lowest priority. Now, these are sliders. So I could also do something like that. So I can have all my phones ring for the entire time. All right, that's referred to as blast ringing. So those are your options for follow me. When you click on hold, users can have their own hold music if you so want. So this would override the music on hold under the dashboard page. Again, you would upload a file, .wav, .mp3, under 1 megabyte, recorded in mono. Okay, customize call recording. So call recording is available. Now, I'm going to disable this and we'll show it to you as it comes up normally. All right, so if I click enable, I click save changes, nothing actually changed because the account default is to not record calls. So now we've got 4 kinds of calls you can record. All right, inbound internal means my coworker Bob gave me a call and we talked. All right, inbound external means a customer called in and I talked to the customer. Outbound internal means I called my coworker Bob because we're discussing a fantasy football trade and we need to finish that off. And then outbound external means I'm calling a customer back. So you decide which ones you want to record. Maybe you only really care about inbound external calls or outbound external calls. Up to you. Or you can just put them all. Click on Save Changes. But once you've decided which ones you're doing, that's when call recording has actually been enabled. And Do Not Disturb just means, hey, any calls that come to the user, send them to voicemail. All right, groups, shorthand for ring groups, basically departments. Creating a group, you click on Add Group, you give it a name and an extension number, and then you click and drag everyone who you want to be in that ring group. Then you click Create Group. So once you've created a group, you can click on the name. You can change it, the name, at the same time. You got dialing repeats, little arrows here. So you can up that or take it down. And basically what you're saying is when a call comes in, to this group, how many times will it ring through to everybody? I.e., am I giving my staff members 1 chance to pick up, 2 chances, or 3 chances, etc. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, if you click on Members, these are all the people who can pick up the call. Right here, you've got the total ring duration, 120 seconds, the default. You can change that if you wish. And then it's going to ring my people in this order. Again, just like your Follow Me, you can change the order around to how you see fit, and then you can redistribute. Likewise, you can set them all to blast, right? So that way, it rings everyone for the full time until someone picks up. Oops. Obviously, when you're blast ringing, the order doesn't matter. All right, extensions. A ring group can have multiple extensions, and that's typically so other staff members can transfer a call to that ring group. Phone numbers. Again, groups can have their own phone numbers. This means if someone calls this number, the ring group goes directly into, or the phone number, the caller goes directly into the ring group, right? Doesn't have to go to your virtual receptionist, doesn't have to be transferred. They're just, boom, they're in there waiting to get help. All right, group features. Ringback. So this is a media file, so .wave.mp3. And essentially this plays back while your inbound caller is waiting for one of your staff members to pick up. You want to make sure that this file plays as long as your ring duration for your group, because the system will not automatically loop it for you. Obviously, once your staff members pick up, they're no longer here to ring that file. Next action, basically no one in your group is able to pick up, even with 3 ring throughs. What do you want the system to do with the call? In this case, I'm sending it to Bob's voicemail. But I can send it to anyone's voicemail box. I can send it to a specific user. I can send it to another group. I can send it to, I can send it back to the main menu. I can send it to specific devices. Okay, most people typically send it to a voicemail box saying, hey, sorry, we're going to get your call. Allow call forward. Basically, if you enable this, you're saying my users that are in this group can make use of call forwarding if they so want. And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. You can put additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID so they know what the call is about. So that's in case like you have staff members in multiple groups. This helps them identify ahead of time what the call is about. All right, devices. Shows all the devices on the account. You can add devices here. The main caveat I would say is for the VirtualPBX soft phone and the web phone, you want to do that on the users page versus the devices page. But beyond that, it's the same process. Voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail on the voicemail boxes on the account. Excuse me. You can add your own voicemail boxes up here. Give it a name, voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Click on Create New Voicemail Box. Once you've done that, you can click on the little wrench icon. So one, you want to get a greeting media. Now you can call in, and if you have the PIN number and the voicemail box number, you can record it over the phone. Or you can upload a file, right? .wave, .mp3, etc. On any voicemail box, you have a media file and a temporary file. If something is selected on the temporary file, it overrides the normal media file, i.e., I'm on vacation next week. you can have that file play, and then when you come back, or when that person comes back, you can put this back to none, and then the default file will start playing again. Recipients, especially for a manually created voicemail box, you're going to want to add an email address so someone knows when a voicemail comes into this voicemail box. And the reason for that is voicemail boxes are limited to 100 messages. Once they hit that limit, no more messages are allowed in, and the person calling gets, mailbox is full, please try again later. So at least if someone is notified, you know, and that person can then go in and clear out any messages as they're handled. Options. Once you have a greeting file and recipients, you can click on Already Set Up. The only other option that really comes up is to delete after notification. So by default, when a voicemail comes in, the user or the recipient, depending on how the box was created, will be sent an email with that file, with a WAV file, or MP3 file, with the voicemail. So they can just double click on it on their computer, for example, and start listening to it. So if you delete after notification, what happens is once that email gets sent out, the voicemail on the system is deleted. So that way that voicemail box doesn't get full. So just an option that some people like. The greetings manager shows all your greetings on the account, what they're named. The source is either recording, TTS, or upload. TTS is text to speech. You can download a file so you can listen to it, see if it's still relevant. You got a little wrench icon here, so you can either change the name so it's something more easily recognized, or you just get rid of it completely. All right, call logs. This shows all the calls on this account. Let's see if we can get a couple more than just one. All right, so green arrow to the right means that was an inbound call to the system. You can click on it and sometimes get more details. The yellow arrow to the left is an outbound call, and you can see it went from this phone to this phone number here. You typically want to see normal clearing because that just says that the call ended normally as far as the system is concerned. If there's something else here, then you probably want to send that to support, and you can do so by clicking on the little fire hydrant icon here. This creates an email with some technical details. I would ask that when you do send that email, put something in the text or the body of the email so we know what happened or what you experienced, i.e., the system said this call was offered to me, but my phone never rang, right? That's important for us to know what you experienced. You can also download. These are in Excel file, and you can do custom to expand the date range, for example. Feature codes. I already mentioned a couple of these, but basically key codes on your phone, Voip phones, that you can use to make use of some of the features. These are also published on our website under Dash Support. Feature codes has them all there, so you don't have to log in to see them. All right, so right now we're under Dashboard. Over here we also have ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. It's a call center feature. Now, one thing to keep in mind is queues have an additional cost associated with them. It's going to depend on your plan. We have currently ACD queues, and ACD queues Pro, I believe, is also now available, which is basically an advanced version of the queues, so they're more expensive. I think queue pricing starts at $15 per month per queue, but I would say double check with our account services team or your plan to see what the pricing would be. Adding a new queue is right there by adding a new queue. I'm going to click on the little gear icon here of an existing queue to show us the setup here. So you give a queue a name, so you know what it's about. Phone number or extension. A queue can have one or the other. If you want a queue to have both, that would require advanced configuration. I don't know if there's a cost associated with that. That's on a case-by-case basis. Then you've got the configuration itself. Queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, the pull down isn't working here. So you've got round robin that equalizes over time, but essentially random. You have least offered. meaning whoever has the least amount of calls offered to them gets the next call that comes in, right? So Bob's been offered 20 calls, Mary's been offered 5 calls. Next call that comes in goes to Mary. Related to that, we have least calls, so least amount of connected calls. So let's say Bob had the 20 offers, but he only spoke to 2 people, whereas Mary had the 5 offered, but she spoke to all 5. Well, the next call that comes in is going to Bob because he has less connected calls. And then lastly, there's most idle, basically who's been waiting the longest for call gets the next call that comes in. Hold treatment, you can upload your own file, again, .wav.mp3. Queue timeout, basically how much time people can wait on hold for your inbound callers. The queue call limit means how many people can be in the queue. You can limit the number of callers that are in a queue. In this case, 0 means there's no limit. Now, timeout immediately if empty. If I have that enabled, means if I have no staff members logged in, just any caller that comes in, treat them as if they've been waiting for the 600 seconds. Escalation queue means if the timeout happens, for example, I can send them to a secondary queue. Obviously, that means you're paying for 2 queues. If I have none here, then it goes to this next one, which is the escalation call flow after timeout, meaning I'm sending it to this voicemail box. One of the key differences between Queues and Queues Pro is on Queues Pro, your hold treatment, you can have several layers. So you can announce their position, you can announce their wait time, you can have different media files play. So much more customized. Agent recovery time in seconds. Basically, after they're done with a queue call, the system won't offer them another call from a queue for 30 seconds, so they can get a drink of water, finish their notes, update CRM, etc. Force away on rejected or missed. If that's enabled, means that if an agent misses a call, the system puts them in away mode, and the agent has to then manually make themselves ready to be able to get a call again. Agent connect timeout is how much time we try to send a call to an agent, and after that, when that timer expires, it moves on to the next agent. Speaking of agents, you click on the little members icon, right? Person with the headset. All right, and then you would click on Manage Members. So the people on the left are not in queues at the moment. The people on the right are all available to be in the various queues. Right, so then you can click on them and then click Add Members, and that will move them into the queues. Once they're in the queues, you click on a queue. So you can see that already is logged in. You click Agents. These are the people who are available to be in queues that I can move into the queue, this queue specifically. I can do that. For example, click Save Changes. And so now I have more staff members in this queue, at least available. Now, for agents up here, they can begin session. That logs them into the queue. Right? By default, you're in away mode, as you can see here. I'm in away mode. You also have the option here under the phone to select devices. Typically, only Voip phones will work. And then they can mark themselves as ready. And so now you see Dinarv and I here are both and I ready to take calls that come into the queue. Likewise, at the end of, so like say if I go to lunch, I can just mark myself away. And then at the end of my shift, I can just end the session completely. All right, Blacklist. There's no charge for Blacklist. Basically, this allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you're not allowing to connect to your system. So you start by clicking Edit Blacklist, and then if you don't have a list, you add. But if you already have any lists, you would just click on the list itself. You can change the name. Block anonymous means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID, and you turn this on, that means we're blocking that call. And then here you just put +1 area code and phone number for every phone number that you want to block. So once you've done that, you would click on Save. You then go back to Settings, and you make sure it's on the selected side, right? So if I had it like this, that means blacklists are not in use right now, right? But once I move a list over, I click Update. Now that list is in use, meaning any phone number that was on that list, when they try to call any of my numbers on the account, they get a busy signal, meaning they're not getting through. Right. Any admin can get to the fax manager, meaning they can get to any fax box on the account. They can also get to any outbound fax box. And they can also see the email to fax logs. So like you see, this one did not go through. This was last month. Click on the little eyeball here. It'll give you some messages basically saying, hey, this was not a valid fax number. So they might have mistyped it. The monitor, this allows you to see what your staff is doing, at least on the phone. Right? Green means they're waiting for a call. Red means they've marked themselves away, which only really works for the queues. I believe it would show up red for if they've marked the user as D&D, or if an admin has marked the user as D&D. Blue means on a call, or on an inbound call specifically. Gold means yellow is on an outbound external call. Then gold means they're on wrap-up time, meaning they're done with the queue call. I believe that's the only colors we have. You can also switch it to available as well as who's busy. The recording manager just takes you to where your call recordings are, and that's hosted by AWS. And that uses the Shame-Dash logins. Reports is currently in beta, which I don't have access to. This is an advanced form of the call logs. To my knowledge, there will be a charge associated with reports. If it's something you're interested in, I would say contact our sales or services team to find out about it. User portal. Every user has access to their own user portal. This is where they would see their voicemails. Now, if you delete after notification for the user's voicemail box, they're never going to see anything here. If you don't, then you'll see their voicemail messages where they can play them back, they can save them, they can download them, etc. Call history, you can see the history of calls for that user. Faxes, if they have any. The contact list basically shows you all the contacts within your Dash account. You are not able to upload or add your own. This is just strictly with your green groups and your users, etc. Conference tab, this is where you manage your conferencing. So you can invite other users to your conference, i.e. other Dash users. You can lock the conference so people can't join. You can mute everybody. You can unmute everybody. You can end the call. Here you can set the moderator pin, which is something you probably should do. When you're actually in a conference as a moderator, you have like individual participant control. So like you can mute a specific person, you can kick a specific person as well. And then you've got these options for giving you notifications when people join or leave, etc. Settings and devices. So your users can set up their own call forwarding. It's not something you have to do for them. They can either do it here under the settings and devices page, or if they're VoIP phone users, they can do it from using the feature codes and do it from the VoIP phone directly. But then, again, they can set up where they're forwarding to, and they can see the status of their devices. Voicemails. As an admin, you can get to the voicemail manager, which means you can get to any voicemail box. So if they're getting full, you can do something about it. Right, so you can say, hey, and say, hey, make it deleted, and get rid of it. You can download it here as well, if necessary. And the last thing here is webhooks. That's if you want to make use of APIs to link Dash to other software. If you're interested in making use of webhooks, you're going to want to talk to our sales team. There's some things they have to go over. There's some white papers and examples of the kind of code you can use to link to Dash. And that is it. Go ahead and go back to the dashboard. So I'll hang out here for a couple minutes in case anyone has any questions. You can just use the chat and I'll respond. Other than that, I thank you for your time today, and I hope you have a wonderful day. All right. Not seeing any questions come through, so I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. Again, thank you for your time today, and have a wonderful day.